Now then, this is TRB back in the GP with the PUs from LW. For those of you who don't speak short language, this is the Retro Bear in the gaming pantry with the pickups from last week. There we go. Abbreviated for you, trying to make these things shorter because they do go on a bit. Anyway, good to have you back, hope you're well, and nice to see you here once again with a small selection of things that I picked up last week. It's going to be 8-bit heavy, as they tend to be nowadays, because that's all I seem to be focusing on. There's a couple of other bits and pieces as well, which I'll show you, and an interesting one that I didn't get hold of. Firstly, those of you who may watch a video a couple of weeks ago, and I've got to thank Retro Reclaimer Kieran for his idea about putting coloured dots onto items in my collection where I know there's things wrong with them, i.e. the disc isn't very good, or I'm missing a manual, or whatever. I still haven't worked out how to categorise that separately, because then you have to, if you're out and about trying to find an item which you know you've got, and then you see a good copy of it, do I take the list with me that's got all my list of stuff on it, or do I take my list with abbreviated versions of it which indicates a mismix? I'm going to try to work that anyway. Mrs. Bear got me some dots. Thank you, Mrs. Bear, as I was just simply too tight to pay for them myself. So I've got some dots now, so I can start doing that and keep categorising my PlayStation 2 games. I've done 2.5 shelves now, or nearly 3 shelves. So I'm not even halfway through that stuff yet, but I'll start again now because I'm going to work out where the ones are which I need changing. But it might be a futile exercise, just probably never get around to doing it. Because if I start doing that, then I'll do it with the Xbox and all the 360, the PS3 and the Wii. That's a job and a half, isn't it, waiting to happen? Anyway, speaking of the Wii, let's get on to what happened with that. Last week I noticed my local CEX had a game in for the Wii, which I've been after for some time, and they've never had it in recent times, and I've looked for it. So this was quite an interesting moment. I thought, oh great, But of course, knowing CEX, you're never quite sure, are you? You're never quite sure what you're going to get. So, bear in mind, this was last Saturday, so this would have been April the 1st. You can see where this is going, can't you? So I thought we'd go down there and have a look, but we decided to go after 12 o'clock, just in case it was an April Fool. It wasn't. It'll all become apparent as I go on. So we went down there. Obviously, I've got my own perception of what I'm looking for in something, especially something which was going to cost a considerable amount of money. Well, for me anyway. Yes, more than £1, but me by now spend a bit more than that these days. But yes, I was a bit, do I, it's got to be absolutely top notch. It's got to be absolutely perfect. This is got to be spot on. Otherwise, it's just not be worth the while. The game in question was The Last Story. Now, I do have a copy of The Last Story. You may be wondering, why does he want another one? If it was an easy reach, I'd get hold of it, but it appears now to be somewhere behind where Basil and Retro Bear sit in the corner, so I can't get it out. But my copy, which is a single case version, is actually the Japanese version. Why do I own a Japanese version of a Japanese RPG, which I don't even speak Japanese? I got it because it was cheap. I just wanted a copy of that game in my collection. Now, at the time, which was probably about 2.5, 3 years ago, a few people, including Mrs. Bear, said it was a bit of a cheat. Well, tough. It's in my collection. I have it. I have a copy of. I'm quite glad, because I think I paid less than a tenner for it. I think a single copy of this game, PAL, is about 45 quid. Something like that. Insane amounts of money. And I know a lot of people, when this came out, it was a very late Wii release, and the collector's set, which is what I was after, was knocked down in price quite a bit, so a lot of people got it a lot cheaper than I did. I've got Pandora's Tower, which I've got a very, 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 very good copy of that, which I think I paid about 50 quid for. And last year, or the year before, it might have been last year, I got a copy of the Xenoblade Chronicles, the collector's edition, with the red Wii remote, which I paid, I think it was about 35 quid for. And I was surprised anybody when looked on CEX today, and they're selling theirs for 80 at the moment. I was like, wow, that's gone up in price. Anyway, The Last Story was priced at 75 quid. So I thought, well, we'll go down and have a look. And I said to Mrs. Bear on the way down, I said, look, it's got to hit all the targets. It's got to be in a good condition. It's got to have all the bits there. If I'm spending this amount of money, I'm not buying something which looks like it's been, rescued from a skip. Which, when we got there, looked like it had been rescued from a skip. Yes. What was wrong with it? Well, where did we start? The flap at the back, which is it's a big box, and it's got a flap at the back. The flap at the back was all bent. The front of the box, where the artwork is, was all ripped in the top. As you look at it, left-hand corner, ripped off. It's only ripped there. The box was bashed in, and somebody at CEX decided it might have been a good idea to put all their stickers actually onto the box. Yeah, I mean, it was about as probably a waste of time as anything you could think of, really. I walked in there, took one look at it behind the counter and went, right, that's it, not going to bother. And then Mrs. Begg goes, have you found it? I said, yes, it's up there. She goes, oh, that's not very good, is it? I said, no, sorry, we didn't bother. I mean, yeah, I don't want this to become one of those anti-CEX rants, because everybody's doing those at the moment. Or they've all been doing for years. I've been doing it for years as well. That's why I tend not to go in there, because I don't, unless it's, old Wii games that I'm looking for, I don't tend not to bother now. I don't even tend to check the stock. I used to check the stock every Friday, see where all the local stores got stock in and plan a route round, but I don't do that anymore now. Just don't do that anymore now. Because they don't advertise whether they've got manuals or not. You're making a wasted journey. And this is the problem I find. I mean, for something like that in that condition, how you can charge the £75 for it, I don't know. They should have like a discounted rate for games. It's like the age-old problem with the reprinted covers, isn't it? Or games that are missing manuals, they shouldn't be sold at the price. If you're going to do this for consoles, discounted, unboxed, whatever, boxed, whatever they call them, mint, they should have a different rate for it. They should do. This is the same shop, my local one, which has got in the window a mini Super Nintendo. In a box with not with the label on it, but like a little tag by the side of it saying, with a description on it saying unboxed. Well, I mean, anybody can see it's in a bloody box. It's in a box. How can it be unboxed? I mean, I know somebody said to me, oh, it's because, you ain't got the inserts or anything like that. They class it as unboxed. Well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, is it in a box? Yes. Is it unboxed? Yes. What? Let us address the elephant in the room. No, you get out. No, I don't know. Very, very strange. Very, very strange. But, they serve a purpose. Last year I went all the way to I went all the way to Doncaster for a completely different reason, but we were going to the CEX, and they got Fire Emblem on the Wii, which is very, very expensive. £85, I think it is. And it's got a reprinted cover on it, and they put it in a case behind, locked it away. £85 with a reprinted cover. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to go on about it, because I did get a couple of games out there, so I'm not going to look it. Like I said, they serve a purpose. They're very good at what they do, but head scratching. A lot of head scratching goes on when you're going to CEX, not because of the potential things you can catch from people who work there. Now I'm joking. That's like the old days when it was not great. So I did pick a couple of Wii games up. There are some pickups, yeah. So we've got, first of all, paid $2.50 for this, I think it was. This is the Croods and Rise of the Guardians combo pack, which I've never had before, or seen before. I'm not aware, I know of the Croods. I've seen the film, but I'm not aware of Rise of the Guardians at all. So that was $2.50. I think it's been a lot more expensive than that past. I mean, it looks great inside, the manual's nice as well. It should be there, shouldn't it? It's a fairly modern game. There's been no reason for the manual missing. And the other one I got, which was £2.50, which I've never seen before. So it can't be a rare game. Well, I say it can be hard to find game. It's not an expensive game. It's like £2.50. It's a 505 game as well. And this is something called Pop, which I think is a puzzle game. Sort of an infamous thief has stolen the Earth's precious seasons and sealed them away in the magical blooms. It is up to you to release the magical stored inside and bring life back to your planet, one season at a time. 200 mind-boggling puzzles. And a giant sticker on the back, which you can't see there. I'm recording this in natural sunlight again. No artificial lights here today. But yeah, it looks in good condition on the inside. But yeah, I've never seen that one before, so it wasn't a wasted journey. But yeah, just a disappointing journey. Just a disappointing journey anyway. So that was $2.50, so $4.50 for those two. But there's two more on there. Two more to go on the wall of Wii, which is ever getting fuller. And then we went down to, where did we go down? We went down to Hidden Chest. Yes, we always go to Hidden Chest. on a Saturday, because that's where Mrs. Bear's Repair Bear, Retro Repair Bear drop-off point is, if you've ever been in. So yeah, if you haven't been, drop your stuff down that needs repairing. Yes, go and do that. So I popped in there, and there's been a bit of a sort of a rumbling in the 8-bit community. There's been a lot of new old stock found, and there's been posted around various forms of social media or whatever, from what I understand anyway. And the Hidden Chest have ended up with quite a fair bit of stock. It's 8-bit tapes, so it's going to have obviously a very limited marketing these days, but there are enough people collecting them for sure. That's it. And I thought, well, you know what, I'll have a quick look through, and yeah, I found some more hit squads. We may have to address that elephant in the room. But there's no room in here. Get out. Go on, out, elephant. We may have addressed the hit squad. I'm not collecting hit squads. I don't want to collect hit squads. I just have a weakness for them. I've no desire to, go to the lengths that some people did. I know who they are. I just don't want to get down that route. It's just a nostalgia thing for me. It's something that was around when I was younger. I love the artwork on them. The games that were released on that label across the systems were all, arcade games that I played. And really just sort of address the whole 8-bit thing. I know a lot of people don't get the 8-bit thing, but if it wasn't for the 8-bit, if it wasn't for those people back in the day programming in their bedrooms, we talk about the 8-bit. Yeah, we talk about the video game crash of '83, which didn't really affect business outside of the United States, because over here it was more focused on, yes, a lot of people had Atari VCSs, but a lot of people were beginning to get into Spectrums and Commodore 64s and eventually onto Amstrads. People were programming in their own home. They were working on these little computers in their own home, which were designed for working at home, not designed for games, but people were making games in their own bedroom. What for those people who did that and kept that industry going over here? And I know all the stuff happened after that with the advent of Nintendo in the mid-80s and took us. That's a console side of it. I'm talking about computers. We want people doing that. We wouldn't be here doing these videos today. We wouldn't be sitting in our bedrooms exactly like they were 30, 40 years ago. Exactly what they were doing, sitting in their bedrooms doing this, coding and creating like we do. We sit here and we video and we upload. It's exactly the same sort of thing. Yeah, so if it wasn't for those guys doing that back then we wouldn't have had a computer game industry, and we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now. And you've also got to think as well, I know a lot of people have played these arcade, a lot of arcade games got converted to the home systems at the time, and they were never going to be anything like it. But you think about it, you've got a great big sort of like 4-player hulking arcade machine, and someone's going to say, right, you, programmer, have got to take that arcade machine there and turn it into something that goes onto one of these. Yeah, and you've got 10 weeks to do it. Chop chop. And you've got to try and turn out the best thing that you can do. So, I know people say, I played this game, they said it was arcade perfect. It's nothing like the arcade. Of course it isn't. Of course it isn't anything like the arcade. But they made as much effort as they possibly could do to try and do it. And, a lot of the times, they succeeded. A lot of the time, some of the times they didn't. Sometimes they were horrendous conversions of arcade games that they shouldn't even tried. I've mentioned it before about 3D games like Stun Runner and hard driving games that were pretty much unconvertible. Well, they still had a go at it. They probably shouldn't have done, but they did. So again, it's the equivalent of saying, right, that block of 100 people who live in that block there, was, well, what we want you to do, right, is transfer those 100 people, but in a block half the size. Yeah, same number of people in a block half the size. Build a building to get 100 people into that. Off you go. Chop, chop, 10 weeks. Not going to happen, is it? Not going to happen. Anyway, rant over. I think that's important. We forget that. We forget that. I know a lot of people look at these tape things as, it's old stuff and not interested, and unless it's, But this is what we grew up with. This is why it's nostalgic for people who grew up in that era. And I thought, I have a weakness for this particular label. I just see them and I think, I just bring back so many memories. So a lot of this is nostalgia. I have played some of the games. I always point out what I have played and what I have enjoyed, and there are some good titles in here, but at the same time, it's just a nostalgia thing. So I'm not, I don't need a full set to be fully nostalgic. I just need to find the ones here and there, and if I find one you don't see very often, as a good a couple that you don't, there we go. I will say big thanks to Ant down at Hidden Chest, because he cut me a cracking deal on these. I won't say what I paid for them because it's a deal. In fact, some of these didn't even make the shelf, because he was actually pricing them up when I got there. I was like, oh, you're not putting those on the shelf, so I'm just about to sit down and do them. I said, well, hang on a second, and I had to look through them, and I said, right, don't put those out, because I want those ones. Anyway, first game is actually, I'll show you two Commodore 64 games, and then for some reason there's a stack of Amstrad. Where these Amstrad games come from, I do not know. I don't know how I've accumulated so many Amstrad games in such a short period of time. I really don't. Anyway, two Commodore 64 ones to show you first of all. I'll show you the non-Hit Squad one. And it's the game that I've wanted for ages. To get this game. And I haven't got it on, I don't think I've got it on any system whatsoever. I might have it on an arcade compilation somewhere. But I don't think I've got it on any system at all, certainly not any 8-bit system. And this is one of the new old stock, which is great. There's a little bit of a dink in the front of the case, but generally speaking, these things have pretty much never been played. Well, they have never been played. They're old new stock, aren't they? New old stock, they call it, new old stock. So it's old stock, but it's new because they've never actually been made it to the shelves. So this is Zaxxon, which for those of you who don't know what Zaxxon is, so you can see it there from the front cover. It's actually an isometric 3D shooting type game. It's ran tremendously a lot when I was a kid. I used to play the arcade game quite a few times. There's some screens. You can see a decent screenshot there. Obviously, the closer you can get to the arcade, I think there's a Master System version of this, which meant to be, I think, is probably the most accurate one conversion I've seen. There's a Atari 2600 version which looks horrible, but it's an Atari 2600. What do you expect? But you can see in here. I mean, this is just lovely. It's got the manual with it. Very, very nice. It's one of these clam cases which clicks like that when you shut it. But yeah, that was nice. I thought I'll get that because I haven't got Zaxxon and I wanted to play it for ages. And then the rest of these are going to be Hit Squad. So the Commodore 64 Hit Squad I got, and again consulting my list, which is not something I've done before. I'm just going to peel this off really badly. Don't worry, I should take out the wrapper later on. And this is a copy of Groisel, or more commonly known Contra. There we go. Because I did get confused when I was a kid. I thought, well, these are the same games, Contra and Groisel. They look exactly the same. They are exactly the same. I'll just take it out of the wrapper. I think they may have dropped it in the wrapper, but I mean, again, it's just. I think, as they said, some of the cases are could be cracked or a bit scratched or a few marks on them, but generally speaking, these are pretty much factory fresh. That one probably not so, because it looks like it's got a bit of there's a little bit of dirt on the inside of that one, but anyway, it's been sitting in a warehouse for God knows how long. But yeah, if you've played Contra, this is the same game. It's probably the least impressive of the 8-bit versions. I think the Amstrad version, it looks as close to the NES version as you can get. The Spectrum version, again, with Spectrum version, they're very well drawn graphics, but obviously you've got colour clash issues. And the Commodore 64 looks probably the least impressive of the three. So anyway, so that was that one. And like I said, the rest of these are Amstrad. So I'm just going to peel these labels off because I'm not sure how they relate to in terms of price. I want people sitting there adding up and trying to work out what I paid for these. That's the wrong way to do it. So we got some Amstrad stuff then. Again, these are in the same position. It's old new stock. Again, looking inside, I mean, they haven't been played. These. This is just great. This one's got a bit of a cracked cover on this one, unfortunately. This is Rambo 3. This is the Amstrad. This is top down. If you play Where Eagles Dare, oh no, from the Eagle's Nest, I think it is, isn't it? From the Eagle's Nest, I can't remember. It's like a top down maze game, and there are some 3D shooting bits in there as well. Looks really impressive, actually. I've watched the gameplay of this. Watched gameplay of a few of these. I'll change the case on that one, I think. But that's yeah, looks like a fun little game, that. And I think that's got most of the Rambo games, if not. I'll do that one last of all because that was a different one which came out of that. This one didn't come from... There were a couple of these which didn't come from the new old, and I'll do those. I'll mention there's two of those. This is one of them. This is one of my favourite games. I played this on the Amiga a lot. The problem with this game is it's not a bad game. It just wasn't a very original game or a particularly exciting game. So you have a average arcade game, which then gets turned into a pretty good conversion at home, but you can't give it a massive score on a conversion. You know, this was probably, I don't know, a 70% to 80% game when it was reviewed in the magazines, because the arcade game wasn't that great. The arcade game had been brilliant, then this would have been a massively superb conversion. But those who like this game love this game like I do. My favourites. And this is tubing, which is where you float from top to bottom on a giant rubber ring while throwing drinks cans at various enemies and avoiding crocodiles and fishing nets and all sorts. You can have two-player on it as well. But it's one of my favourite arcade games, and I played it on the Amiga a lot when I was a kid. So yeah, I don't think it's a bad game, but it's just one of those which you do find. It's an average arcade conversion. You can make the best conversion in the world. It's just not going to stand out dramatically because the source material isn't that great, and I think that's always been a bit of a shame, really. But still, it's not a bad game at all. So that was actually just off the shelf. That wasn't one of the these ones here. Again, we've got a cracked case on this one, sadly, but not a problem. I'll try and replace it. And this is Short Circuit, which is a game based on the 1987 film, I'm thinking, which I think I've seen once, and that was it. Johnny Five, the robot, on the front. Steve Guttenberg was in that as well when he was a well-known film star before he quit the Police Academy films, which probably wasn't a good idea. I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea. Didn't see anybody laughing anyway. So next up is World Series Baseball, which I have got on the Spectrum Hit Squad, which is just baseball, which I'm desperately trying to get into at the moment and failing miserably. I obviously, with my affiliation to the 49ers in San Francisco, I thought, you know what, this young, I'm making certain effort to try and watch the San Francisco Giants baseball team. I don't care if they're any good or not. I've got no idea. I don't really follow baseball. I only watch baseball when it gets to the playoffs in October because I don't know, I just find it's easy to watch playoff games, but I'm not really quite sure who's who and whatever, so I tend to watch that. And I've tried the regular season, I just can't get into it. Just cannot get into it. I'm trying my hardest, but no, it's not happening at the moment. I'll get there. I'll get there, I think, but just not now. Next up, this came from the shelf as well, and this completes my across the hit squads, all three of them, Amstrad, Spectrum, and Commodore 64. And I'm sure my old mate JK would approve of this one. Bubble Bobble on the Amstrad, which I think I've already got on a compilation anyway. Probably got it on the Rainbow collection, I think, which has got Rainbow Islands and New Zealand Story on it. Great game. If you never play Bubble Bobble, yeah, you need to play that game. Don't care what system you play it on, play it. You need to play it. It's one of the great platformers of all time. This is one of a game which I don't know. I'm not sure whether this game gets the respect it deserves or not. I don't know, or whether it's one of the forgotten games. But I had a hoot playing this on the Commodore 64 a few years back. And this is Cabal, which is God, I don't know the best way to describe it. It's a shoot 'em up where you're a soldier at the bottom of the screen, and then you're shooting stuff. It doesn't scroll, so you're shooting stuff. You've got enemies appear out the side and vehicles and whatever, and you're just trying to destroy the screen ahead of you. And there's various bosses along the way as well. I playing the Commodore 64. I actually love playing it. It's really good, and I think it tends to get forgotten a little bit. It was actually an arcade game which I hadn't heard of at the time. And then when I saw the home conversions, I wasn't particularly interested. So I missed out when it first came out. But people used to say, oh, it's not a bad game, that. And then years later, playing it, and I thought, yeah, actually, this is a pretty fun game, this one. So I was very pleased to get that one. And I think I've now got that on the... I've got it on the 64 as well, so that's good. This one, I must be honest, it's a game I've never played. But I do have it a few times in my collection. And this is Midnight Resistance, which I'm not sure how it plays at home, but certainly in the arcade it was one of these where you had a rotating joystick so you could rotate your fire around the screen. But again, I know the Commodore 64 version got very, very good write-ups at the time. I've never played Midnight Resistance. I can't believe it. Data East arcade game originally, but there we go. So really happy to finally grab hold of that one. Now this one here, and the last one I'm going to show you today, this actually Dana at Hidden Chest, he picked up a lot at one of the auctions he goes to, including quite a rare Codemasters game as well, which is, I think we were all surprised about how much that's actually worth, which I think is in one of his display cabinets at Hidden Chest. And he sent some photographs through, and I said a quick scan through. There's not really an awful lot there, and then all of a sudden I saw this one title. I said, "Oh, can you put that? Give me a price on that?" And he said, "Oh yes, I'll let you know." And he didn't. So I went down on the Saturday, and I said, pick the game shelf. I said, "I still waiting for your price," and she said, "Well, I knew you'd be coming down today anyway." Oh, okay, fair enough. So we took a chance on that one. And I only wanted this one because, one, I don't think I've seen it on the Hit Squad label for any. I don't own it on the Hit Squad, and I haven't seen it anywhere to pick up. I have got it on the 10-gen trilogy, and probably that's for the Commodore 64, and I've also got it on the Heroes compilation, which I think is for, I'm going to say Amstrad, I think I've got. And I'd like the Mega Drive version at some point as well, because I haven't got that one. And it's sort of connected to American football, but in a way it is and it isn't. And it's a copy of Cyberball, which is a futuristic robotic American football game. So I wasn't overly seeking this one out, but I thought, well, you don't see that one all that often. And again, very nice condition. They're all great condition, these were anyway. I won't say, again, this was well priced, so I won't tell you exactly what I paid for it, but nice condition, so I was happy to pay what they're asking for that one. And again, you just don't see that one all that rare. You know, there are Hit Squads you see quite a lot of, which are quite common, which is why, you know, when I look through them, I've got that one, I've got that one, I've got that. I know what I'm looking for more or less straight away. But those are, so that's what I picked up last weekend. In terms of where I am with the Hit Squad collection, I can't quite believe this. When I first started, because when I looked at 8-bit stuff years ago, I bought a Commodore 64 with a big bulk lot. I've told this story many times. And it came with a load of Hit Squads. And I didn't collect anything else for ages after that. I bought that in probably 2009, 2010. Didn't really add to it. And I thought, you know, 5-6 years ago, I thought, you know, I'd really like to collect for 8-bit. I said to Mrs. Bert, I'd really like to get into 8-bit collecting. I said, but there's just so much stuff. And there's so much stuff that, you know, I'd recognise, but there's probably more stuff that there would be more stuff that I wouldn't know about at all. And it's only been in the last sort of 5 years since I got I had a Spectrums, I think a ZX81, 48K, 48K plus, 128K, got Amstrad 464, and I had a reasonable stack of Commodore 64 Hit Squads, and now all of a sudden, I know I bought a lot of Spectrum ones off Sega Zombie, which is now, I've got more Spectrum Hit Squads than I got of the two systems. But with that selection there, the Amstrad has now overtaken the Commodore 64, and I've only been collecting for the Amstrad for about 12-15 months. So, yeah, but I've come across places which have got bundles of Amstrads. You know, Vintage Game had a bundle of Amstrad Hit Squad. I've got about 25 in one go, and I've got I've got 8 here. I'm looking at 8. 8 here? Yeah, 8. 8 here. So I'm getting them in like bulk lots. Weird. But I shall continue to pick up Hit Squad if I see them and they're price worthy enough. I'm not going to get in that habit of chasing the expensive ones, like Martin at the Hobby Lodge is trying to do with the Commodore 64. I know my good friend Sean at Retro Games Revived, he's trying not to buy them, and I know he's He's nabbed a couple of the big ones as well. I'm not, and of course David Retro Games played badly, got his missing one. He got a copy of Castle Master on the Spectrum. I'm not going to be chasing the big ones down unless they're stupidly priced, as in stupidly cheaply priced. I'll just pick up ones I should go along with and see how we go. So, am I collecting hit squads? Probably yes. We can now probably underline that fact and say yes that I am, but only when I see them and only at the right price. Until then, I should just pick stuff up. And that's it. That's all the pickups for last Saturday, the 1st of April. So I hope you enjoyed that. Some interesting stuff there. Yeah, the 8-bit stuff is where I'm really focused at the moment, and you know, I used to pick up a lot of varied stuff, but the days are gone where I can go out with 20 quid in my pocket and come back with 30 games across a number of different systems. I just can't do that anymore now. And certainly spending, you know, picking those games up there and knowing what I paid for them, and then, you know, I'm happy to pay the price that I did. It was a great deal which ain't cut me, but you know, those days of going picking up loads of cheap games are just gone now. So the pickups, like I said before, will be few and far between. There may be more 8-bit centric, I don't know. It depends what I find, doesn't it? Depends what I find. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much indeed for watching. You are not obliged to like, subscribe, comment or tick the bell, but feel free if you want to do so. And I'll be back with another one of these soon, but until then, do take care and bye for now.